tell you, Zsolt Horváth is not a giant, but standing next to Onoda, he sure does look like one.
5 feet 9.5 inches tall he is. Well, she is just 4 feet 6 inches. Zsolt Horváth speaks English rather fluently. He learned it in school. He is the best gymnast in Hungary right now, finishing first in the all-around at the Hungarian National Championships in 1988. So this is really kind of a changing of the guard for all the teams, not just the United States, in terms of preparation for the 1992 games in Barcelona. Again, her score 9.825. We are waiting for his score on the pommel horse, and the judges are having a conversation about the numbers and making some final adjustments. Tense moments for these young people. Again, he is 20 years of age. She is 14 years of age. And there you see the international judging table. And when you talk about a conference among international judges, it is very, very difficult with interpreters trying to speak not only a foreign language, but to speak gymnastics and the very technical terms that are involved.
It is, in fact, many times you'll see the same interpreter traveling with the delegations because they just have to know the gymnastics lingo.
Right, right. We understand that his score is 9.40, giving them a total of 19.225. And currently that puts them in second place behind Phoebe Mills and Pat Kirksey. And we are going to continue on right now with what we believe may be the strongest tandem in this competition, Brandy Johnson. At the recently held McDonald's American Cup, this young lady won the gold medal. Just 15 years of age, 4 feet 11 inches tall.
And here's one of the main factors why she won. This is the vault. Certainly her best event. A beautiful round-off entry, full twisting layout Tsukahara, perfect landing. She's clearly one of the finest vaulters in the world. She was 5th in Seoul at the Olympics. Had a great shot at winning a medal. Here's a round-off. Back handspring onto the horse. Gets a great lift off the horse. A lot of height, good distance, and just nails that landing. She has a lot of power. She can do the regular entry round-off full twisting Tsukahara vault. Just an incredible vault. Either way, she's one of the best vaulters in the world. She can do just about any vault.
I noticed her hand placement was on the vaulting board side of the horse. Is that the ideal placement, or do you want them on top of the horse more? Or does it depend really on what you're throwing?
Well, it depends on what you're throwing. It depends on the power you have. She has so much power, she can afford to hit her hands low on the horse because he gets her really high. If you don't have a lot of power, you're going to have to be more on top of the horse because you end up kind of falling off the horse as opposed to pushing off of the horse.
Again, the female gymnasts are allowed to execute 2 vaults. The 2 vaults are scored separately. Only the higher one will count.
See, and there's a totally different vault, different family of vault. Handspring pike front with a half turn. Took a hop. She'll get a higher score for the first one. It really didn't matter because her first vault was fine. She gets a great score for that.
She gets a congratulatory pat from her coach, Kevin Brown. Now, she is teamed with a man named Lance Ringnauld. Lance competes for Gold Cup Gymnastics. And earlier, we had a chance to speak with Lance about being teamed not only with Brandy Johnson, the gold medalist, but about his strategy in determining his events.
Well, we'll start with the last event first. I think it's really important, especially in this elimination competition, to end on your best event, or a very strong event at least. And high bar is very consistent and usually one of my strongest events. And as far as starting parallel bars, even if I have a little trouble, I think I'm okay. But P-bars can be my strongest event at times. And then vaulting, we stuck in the middle because it's pretty consistent and a pretty decent score.
And he mounts right away to a planche. Very, very difficult. Takes a lot of power. There's a giant right to a handstand. Front uprise to the center of the bars into a back stitz and settles right into a handstand. There's a back toss. Takes a little step that's going to cost him about a 10th or 2. And a Diamidov. Front uprise. And here's a stutz to a handstand. Another stutz. And here's his dismount, a double pike. Oh, big step. That's going to cost him quite a bit.
And that might open the door for Phoebe Mills and Pat Kirksey to be the top contenders, depending on how much they deduct for that major step at the end. Now, when you have a major flaw like that, do they take into account the degree of difficulty on the dismount?
They certainly do, but it's an automatic deduction. If you take 1 step, it's a 10th of a point. You take 2 steps, it's 2/10 of a point. And here's his dismount. It's a double pike. He falls back on the bars a little bit, so he over-rotates. and he's really in a deep squat. He almost landed on his rear end. That could have been even a much bigger deduction. Lance really saved it.
Again, he is paired with Brandy Johnson. We're going to take another look at her second vault.
Now, the second vault is totally different. You know, Brandy can pick and choose and do whatever she wants. Here's a handspring, piked front with a half turn, opens up very, very well, but has almost too much rotation. Takes a big hop backwards.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll have the scores for Brandy Johnson and Lance Ringnauld. Stay with us here in Jacksonville, Florida. McDonald's International Mixed Pairs continues now. We promised you the score for Brandy Johnson and Lance Ringnauld. Their combined total is 19.225, with Brandy Johnson getting a 9.875 for her vault, Lance receiving a 9.35 for his performance on the parallel bars. That's good enough to put them in a tie for third place at this juncture. Of course, there are several more pairs still to compete, and one of the tougher pairs to compete is the tandem that's about to begin right now. From the Soviet Union, it's Olesya Dudnik and Vitaly Marinich. The warm-ups are concluding at the vaulting horse, so that's the clue that Dudnik will be vaulting in this first round. Her partner, Marinich, will be going on the still rings as soon as the warm-ups are concluded. Again, the women must compete first, and for those of you just joining us, it's combined scores that advance you into the next round. There are 16 pairs in round 1. 8 pairs will compete in round 2, with only 3 surviving to the third and final round.
And we are now ready to resume our
You'll notice that almost every girl starts with vault, and the reason they do is it's a very secure event, and you can almost guarantee a good score, and you have 2 chances to do it. When I competed, I used to like to start on rings because it was a real tough event. I'm surprised that not more male gymnasts are doing rings.
Olesya Dudnik, 5 feet tall, 86 pounds. She's from Kirovgrad. She's been in the sport for a little over 8 years.
And once again, another round-off entry vault, full twisting layout Tsukahara. The other name for that vault is the Yurchenko, from the Soviet gymnast that first did it. I saw her do it for the first time at the World Cup in 1982. Big surprise when we saw it.
By the way, was a silver medalist in the American Cup this past weekend.
Dudnik doesn't have as much power as Brandy Johnson on this vault. She's very good technically, but just doesn't have that sheer block off the horse.
In the 1988 People's Republic of Korea friendship competition, she finished first on the balance beam and first in floor exercise. Should she survive to the next rounds, those are her next 2 events, floor X and balance beam. Last year, she was the junior champion of the Soviet Union.
And she does the exact same vault, a lot better. Boy, perfect landing.
First was just a warm-up. And that certainly is the beauty of doing 2 vaults. You can make adjustments and improve.
In men's gymnastics, it's all or nothing. You only have 1 chance.
Well, actually, it's that way with all the other events. You don't get 2 chances at beam or bars or any of it. So
absolutely,
it is a unique apparatus for the women. All right, Vitaly Marinich, gold medal in the rings.
Marinich was groomed through the European Junior Championships. So you always see the top young Soviet gymnasts competing in the Junior European Championships. So if you want to know who's going to make it in the future, just watch that competition. He did very, very well in that meet.
Excellent body for a gymnast, too. He's just 5 feet 4.5 inches tall and 117 pounds, which is hard to believe because on his bio sheet, he wrote down that he likes ice cream, pizza, and spaghetti. Hardly the diet of that washboard stomach.
Oh, you got a carbo load before these events. Incredible strength sequence, right to an iron cross. Back up rise to a planche. This is just loaded with strength. That skill's called a Li Ning, first and after the famous Chinese gymnast Li Ning a few years ago. Marinich presses to a handstand. Does what's called a Yamawaki. Really seen in full for the first time at the Olympics in 1984. There's a giant to a handstand. That's a required move. You have to go from a handstand to a handstand somewhere in the performance. And a double layout dismount.
Fine performance, and this is going to be a tough tandem to beat. Vitaly Marinich and Olesya Dudnik from the Soviet Union.
The dismount that Marinich does is pretty much the standard dismount on rings. Most of the gymnasts dismount with a double layout because it's a difficult D-level skill, highest level of difficulty, and it's easy to land.
We'll take a look at the second vault of Olesya Dudnik.
She knew she had to do a better one, and she really zeroed in on it this time. Good lift off the horse. A real crisp turn on the full twist. Plenty of time to see the ground, and lands perfectly.
They did find a flaw in that vault, however. Instead of a perfect 10, she received a 9.9, which in first round scores would tie her with Phoebe Mills. However, it's how she and her partner do. So we are waiting for the score for his performance. 19.50 is the combined score. His individual score for the ring was 9.6. So 19.5 catapults them into first place. We are moving now back to the vault, where Romania is represented by Isabela Lacatus. Lacatus, born in 1976. She's only 12 years old. Hard to think when you put that in perspective of Romanian gymnastics, that Nadia Comaneci was just coming on the scene then, and this girl was just being born.
Oh, it's incredible. You know, there really is a changing of the guard right now. They're purposely putting these really young gymnasts in here because she'll be 16 years old in the 1992 Olympic Games, just barely qualifying in age to compete there.
You must be 15 for the women to compete in international gymnastics. Lacatus is 4 feet 6 inches tall, another giant.
And once again, a round-off entry vault. Ooh, she really must have slipped her hand on that horse. She got no lift off the horse. Of course, fortunately, she has one more chance. It seemed to me that as her hand hit the horse, it just slipped, and she didn't get any lift.
Well, she looked loose to me going into that. Her body posture before her hand even touched the horse, her knees were bent, and she just looked soft instead of...
She also twisted very, very soon off the horse. She needs to establish that lift first. Notice that as her hands hit the horse, right away, she's twisting.
A couple of things led into that. I didn't think her run was particularly powerful, so she does get a second chance. This is her first international competition. Kind of a testament to that is the fact that she brought her music, which is required on cassette. She brought it on a reel-to-reel tape. She's new on the international scene and having to learn very quickly. The 1988 junior champion of Romania, Isabela Lacatus.
Here she goes again. Much, much better. She just needs to get more power. She's only 12 years old. As she develops, she'll be able to get that vault well under her belt.
And in a vault like that, you can really see where upper body strength is so important. She just needs a little bit more muscle all the way around.
Yeah, and sometimes you can work as hard as you can, but you just need a few more years. Maturity and age can do it to you to give you that extra strength.
But experience will certainly play a factor into that. She's just 12 years of age, and this is certainly a valuable experience for her. Now she is teamed with Nicolae Bejeneru. He is 20 years of age. And oddly enough for this man, the Olympics were his first major competition.
And I'll tell you, I know how he feels. My very first competition that I wore a USA on my chest was the World Gymnastics Championships. And boy, you are nervous out there. He is a very solid gymnast. He mounted with a beautiful full-in pike into a very nice second tumbling pass. There's a handspring front flip, bounder front flip. Very sure on his feet.
Let me elaborate on something that you said. You started off at the World Championships. This man started off at the Olympics. The reason that happens is you qualify for international teams through trials. And maybe you qualified the year before in 13th place or 15th place. And finally, it's your turn to really make the team. And shazam, the next big international meet is the Olympics or the World Championships. And that's how that happens. It isn't some crazy coach who says, hey, Pete, we want to put you in the Olympics.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, I was 13th in the United States at the first trials, and the second one I moved up to 6th place to put me on the team. I didn't even know what I was getting myself into. He's very solid, beautiful double back dismount, perfect landing. He'll get a very good score on that. Now here's his second tumbling pass. It's a front flip, walkout, into a round-off back handspring, a layout with a 1.5 twist immediately into a punch front. Very, very difficult. That's a D-level skill, the highest level of difficulty. And here's his last tumbling pass. It's a very good round-off back handspring, double back flip, Fairly standard dismount, but he does it quite well. His knees are close and tight together.
The women's score for
And a perfect landing.
Of Romania, 9.5.
Isabella Lakatus did much better on her second vault, obviously, than her first, because she really wiped out.
You know, as we were talking about the lack of height, for example, and weight on uneven bars, the same is true on vaulting. It needs a lot of weight in order to get that board down. And it's really hard to get a lot of lift off that